Welcome, property investors. This is the Building in Perth podcast. If you're a property investor or you're curious about investing in property in Western Australia, this is the podcast for you. The reason for that is we're not going to hold back. We're not going to sugarcoat things. We're certainly not going to bullshit you. And we're going to exploit everything that you need to know. There's a lot of negative press at the moment in WA regarding building, and it doesn't have to be. So what we're going to do is help you navigate through that bullshit and create your wealth free of charge. We're just giving you this information. Every month we're going to have special guests on who are industry professionals, and then we're going to release an episode every single Monday. So you're not going to miss anything. So please stay tuned, like, subscribe so you never miss anything, and enjoy. And welcome to the Building in Perth podcast with your host, Chris Holland. Well, thanks for joining. I hope you're watching this. This is going to be a blockbuster of an episode. So much inquiry at the moment regarding granny flats. Okay, so today what we're going to be talking about is, are they a good investment of land, a granny flat? Are the councils in acceptance with building new granny flats? And how much do they cost, more importantly? How long should they take to build? All of this we're going to unpack today. So let's get straight into it. Are granny flats a good investment? Well, absolutely. All over Melbourne and Sydney the last 15 years, people have been building granny flats or auxiliary dwellings, depending on the block that you live in. Absolutely. Granny flats are an amazing investment. Not only if you live there, they provide so many benefits like having a place for your elderly kids or your teenage kids, maybe even a bit of a kids retreat, for instance. If you've got people from overseas that are coming to visit you from Scotland or wherever you live or wherever you're from or your family's from, it's a great safe haven for them to come over, and they're not living in your house, you know. Like, I'm from Scotland, obviously. My parents are living here, but we do have family members that come and visit us every year. Love you, Auntie Jean, Uncle Ken, my cousin Kenneth and Joanne. They come over and visit us every year, every other year. The first 3 or 4 days are absolutely fantastic. By the 5th or 6th day, you've drunk too much beer and you want them out the house. Granny flats are unbelievable, right? They're still on the property. You can put relatives in there. If you've got an elderly couple, you know what I mean? Your mum and dad, or maybe you've lost one of your parents and you want your other one to be there. It is such a good investment to have a granny flat if your block of land obtains it. So, number one, councils are highly acceptive of granny flats now. This wasn't the case 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. To subdevelop a block of land, that's not as easy, or everybody would do it, to be honest. There are certain codes and rules and legislations and councils that will or will not allow you to subdevelop your block of land. However, to add a granny flat, most councils are very accepting of this. As long as you've got a bit of space and you've got a 3-meter access down one side of the property, you can definitely build a granny flat, essentially. So most people who own a block of land just now, in Western Australia especially, given that we've got the all-time lowest rental vacancies available of 0.4%, a granny flat should definitely be considered. Okay. Number two, how much do they cost? Well, this is a loaded question, right? 5 years ago, we were building granny flats for $120,000 to $140,000. And that was good. Like, the builder made a bit of money. The client could afford that. If they had to get finance or draw some equity, it was quite easy if it was only that much cost to build a granny flat. Nowadays, look, majority of the project builders are starting from $200,000. We can offer something around the range of about $190,000, $170,000. Now, if you're tuning in on YouTube, I'm just going to put the plan up now. Obviously, there's one of many plans that we have available. I think we've got about 5 standard plans, but when there's a granny flat, you're limited to the size that you can build, right? It's normally about 70 square meters, so there's not too much design variance with you. We can modify all our designs if need be. But yeah, generally speaking now, project builders are charging about 200 grand. Okay, now that's fully finished. That's normally a concrete slab. There are little tips and tricks that we can use to reduce some of the cost, but yeah, you're looking close to $200,000 for a granny flat. Now, if you're sitting there going, that's crazy, that's too expensive. Well, to be honest, it is crazy because you could build houses for about 230 grand only a few years ago. But now you'd be lucky to get a 3x2 house that starts with a 2 in front of it. Majority of homes these days start at $300,000. So it's all relative, right? 140 grand 5 years ago, 200 grand now, it's $60,000 more. but has your mortgage, like the property value and everything's just increased, right? It's just inflation in general. So if you have a $200,000 question mark in your head, that won't be too far away. Now, that's obviously a nice, clear, level, accessible block. There's lots of other ways, like I said, that we can look at saving cost. One thing that I love to do with granny flats is build them on studs. Okay, studs in a stump, in a subfloor, have it risen off the ground. It's great for access. It doesn't have to be a slab, sort of like a house, you know what I mean? It is not a house, it's a granny flat. It's named the granny flat or an auxiliary dwelling. So there's no reason why we can't build a timber frame granny flat on stilt form, for instance. It's going to save you a bit of money on earthworks and stuff like that. So yeah, that's something that I definitely try and push for my clients. Now, we are getting a lot of inquiry just because of the rental market. We're just finishing off 2 builds for one of our clients, Tristan, who was on the podcast 2 weeks ago. If you've not watched that, stop what you're doing now, go back and watch it. Tristan was a Melbourne investor. We've done a sub-development for him. He can't believe, because we're in communication so much, he can't believe more people don't do this. I just don't think it's public knowledge that you can definitely put granny flats and how much they cost, right? But one thing's for sure, if you've been living in your home and it's your house, you own it, or you've got a mortgage on it for more than 5 years, I can almost guarantee there's enough equity in that you've increased the value of that property that you can use the equity to build a granny flat. It provides passive income. If it's an investment property, it actually doesn't matter. You can have it rented out non-stop. So the granny flat that I'm displaying on the screen just now, if you're on YouTube, this one's in Kwinana. And this is renting out for $350 a week in Kwinana. Now, if you're in Perth, Kwinana is one of the lower rental income suburbs. It's quite affordable for most people. So if you were to place one of these granny flats in Leeming, let's say, who says you're not going to get $400 a week for a granny flat? At the end of the day, it's a 2-bedroom, self-contained unit. It's got its own sub-meter, its own water, blah, blah, blah. It's absolutely a great investment. So it adds property value if you're owner occupier, or if it's an investment, it definitely adds value. There's no question about that. But how about this, right? Let's say you've got a 4x2 house in Leeming and you put a 2x1 granny flat on the back. Now, the 4x2 house in Leeming will be rented out for about $750 a week, let's just say. And then let's say you can get $400 for your granny flat. Yeah, that's $1,200 a week rent income. And for those 2 mortgages, you're going to be positive gearing significantly. The good thing is, if the granny flat does sit empty for a period of time, you're still going to have your main rental income coming through the main house. But again, there's so many uses for granny flats. It's pretty endless, to be honest. So $200,000. Now, how long does it take to build? There's a few other builders in Perth that offer granny flats. There's not a lot. Summit, in terms of project builders, they're probably one of the biggest. They start from about 220 grand, roughly, from my experience. They build them in a steel fab construction, which is fine. They also offer double brick, and they do a brick veneer mold as well. So for that reason, it's a little bit dearer, but the timeline for Summit to build a granny flat is insane. They're talking 10 months, which is, Summit's a great company, but yeah, they're just like most of the builders, or big project builders. They've just got so much work on, they can't allocate trades to build something so simple. So a granny flat it's got all the same components as a house, but it's half the size, right? Or 3/4 of the size. Oh, sorry. A quarter of the size of a house normally. So how long should they take to build? If Summit's offering 10 months, we can build granny flats in 4 months. That's not because we're any better. Well, we are. Purely because we designate a team. We've got a team of granny flat installers, let's say, who are designated for our granny flats. And if they're on there every single day, we can build the granny flat in 4 months. So think of that, man. If you get, let's say you've got the block of land just now, or you've got a house just now, and you're like, could do with a bit of extra income. If you've got enough equity, we'll have the thing built in 4 months for you. Passing through council doesn't take that long anymore. As I said, the councils are more open to allowing granny flats to be built. So in 4 months' time, you can have a granny flat built on there. Like, why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? That's 8 months of the year. If you were to sign up today, you're going to get an extra $300, $400, $500 a week rent, depending on the location. So it's definitely something you should you should consider if you've got the resources. Now, there is lots of different specifications for granny flats. You don't have to put all the bells and whistles in them. It depends on how you're going to use them, if you're going to Airbnb them, if you're going to rent it out fully. But there is a lot of cost-saving methods we can offer when it comes to granny flats. You're not living in it like a house. Do you need stone bench tops? You know what I mean? Do you need waterfall wedges? Do you need beautiful big 600 by 300 tiled splashbacks? Probably not, let's be honest, right? So even like your appliances and stuff like that, can we go 600 mil ovens? Can we use Omega or something like this? You know, there's lots of things that we can do to shave the cost down. The other thing is, if you're not living in there permanently, it doesn't have to be 7-star energy rated. We can get it across the line. We can use James Hardy cladding on the outside. It still looks modern. We can put one split system in as opposed to a full house of reverse cycle air conditioning. What's stopping you chucking a little fire pit in there, or, you know what I mean, to heat it up in the winter, which would have it cooking in 15-20 minutes. So there's lots of these alternative methods that we can use to save costs when it comes to a granny flat. But ultimately, it's going to give you extra income. I mean, that's the biggest benefit of a granny flat. It's going to give you extra income. That block of land or that back garden at the moment that's just collecting dust, or you hate it because you have to go and cut the lawn every 3 weeks or whatever, you know, why not rent it out and get $400 a week as passive income? It just makes no sense. It just makes sense to do it. So as I said, the big thing for us in WA, the driving factor, of the councils are really on board now due to the rental shortage. So yeah, I think 100%, if you can obtain a granny flat, why not? Why not? Let's look at it. So other than that, guys, I just want to reach out to anyone. I want you guys to reach out to me, to be honest. If you've got a block of land and you want to just consider it, right? Now, I'm saying $200,000. That's loose. It could be 20K less. It could be 20K more, but I'm just giving you a ballpark figure. If you were to take a mortgage on $200,000 at today's interest rate, you're talking about $260 a week. Okay. So it's going to cost you $260 a week to potentially earn $400 a week. So it's an absolute no-brainer. And that's obviously depends on how much deposit you're going to put down or how much equity you can draw, but it's a very, very safe investment. So for a 4-month build time that's guaranteed, written in a contract, let's do it. Absolutely. Let's do it. Okay. So get on to www.ccwest.com.au. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook. There's constant updates getting posted of our granny flats under construction. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Okay. So short one today, team, but thanks for joining. And if you're interested or you're curious about, can I build a granny flat in my home? Just send us a PM, reach out to us, and I'll get in touch very shortly. Okay. Thanks for listening. Cheers, guys. Bye.